Welcome back to the Live Off Rents podcast by Spark Rental. As always, I'm your host, Brian Davis, and I am on a journey to reach financial independence alongside the 260 some members of our co-investing club. We are all getting together every month, vetting different passive real estate investments. And we also bring in outside experts each month to come and speak and give us a fresh perspective. And a lot of those experts come on the podcast to chat with us as well. So today we have brought in ex-financial advisor Chris Miles. He's the founder of Money Ripples. He's the host of the Money Ripples podcast. And I wanted to talk to Chris today about how he climbed out of $1 million in debt. A story he tells about, how he retired twice and how that all worked. So, Chris, I'm really excited to hear how this story unfolded for you.
Yeah, so we'll get to in another segment about like my whole story of being a financial advisor. But I used to be a financial advisor. I quit when I realized that pretty much financial advisors are full of crap, and they don't actually retire off of the very things they recommend, right? So why should I keep doing it? But I had a friend. He got me to do real estate investing because he's saying because he challenged me. I hired him to be a financial advisor, and then he quit. And he said, Chris, how many of your clients are financially free where they don't worry about money? I'm like, well, they all worry about money. They all worry about running out of money too soon. Well, how about this? How many of you guys as financial advisors are financially free, not off the commissions you're earning, but actually doing the investments, the mutual fund investments? When I realized there's guys working in my company since the late 1970s, I said, man, maybe nobody. And so I started going down that real estate rabbit hole, right? I took the matrix red pill, so to speak, and blew my mind what was possible. And so as I started getting into real estate a little bit more, started to realize that it's about cash flow and passive income, not so much about accumulating a bunch of money than living on less than the interest, like you learn in the stock game, right? I realized like, okay, this is better. And so later that next year in 2006, I was able to retire when I was 28 years old. Had enough passive income coming in, I could quit my active income stuff. I was like basically I quit being a mortgage broker or quit being a financial advisor. I just became a mortgage broker and then I taught ballroom dancing on the side,
Oh,
at
nice.
that
I
point.
love it.
I used to be one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers and was on like the world championship team and stuff like that.
Oh, that's fun.
Um, so yeah, so I was doing that for a little bit, but I wanted to know what these guys knew. And so as I got in that real estate space, realized that passive income was the focus. I had enough money. I only needed 3,500 a month to live at that point, so it was pretty easy compared to like nowadays where I need like five figures to live on. But I did it, and I was like, well, now what? And so I decided after several months, I decided like actually teach people. I was teaching some of my friends and neighbors and stuff just casually because they always wanted to know. They're like, how are you 28 and retired? Right. Well, eventually I came out of retirement. I partnered with a guy named Garrett Gunderson and we created a company together and did that for several years. Well, of course, the recession hit and our primary market we're all focused on, we're all real estate flippers. You know what happened in 2007? Of course, real estate flippers felt it first. Like
I
when the
remember it
credit
well.
markets dried up, I remember too. I was trying to cash out refi for my house at the time in July of 2007. And they're like, oh, just bump your score up 2 more points. We'll do it in August. I did it. Then August came around. They're like, oh, we just changed the rules last week. If you do this, this, and this, then we'll do it in September. September rolls around. They said, sorry, we don't give any more cash out refis to business owners anymore. Right. And all that equity was trapped in my property. All of a sudden, that equity starts sinking because it was like my little McMansion I bought, right? And I stuffed all my money in, thinking I can just always cash out refi whenever I need it, get a HELOC or something. That wasn't the reality anymore. Not to mention my rentals weren't doing great because I was negative cash flowing on rentals because I didn't care because I would just take out the equity and invest in more things, just buy, 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 buy. I was just going too aggressive. On top of that, our business was failing. So we were almost going bankrupt in the business too. So I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire all within about a year. Like I was in the hole about 15,000 every single month. That was short.
Oh, wow.
And so I was in this big debt hole. Couldn't figure out what to do. Eventually in 2009, April 2009, I remember I got a knock on the door and a guy said, I just bought your house a half hour ago at the courthouse. When can he get out? And he bought it for literally half the price I bought it for just 3 years prior.
Oof.
And I was just like, so I ended up paying him $2,000 in rent to get out, at least buy some time because my fourth child was about to be born that week. So, but paid him for 2 weeks of rent and then moved out to a small little rental to squish my little family of at that time now it was like a family of six. And it was crazy time. I mean, I had collector calls come in left and right. Like I called them I love you calls after a while because they were the only friends that called me anymore were collectors. My friends stopped calling me because I didn't have money anymore, right? So it was a pretty crazy time. And so people are like, well, how'd you get out of it? I had to just get gritty. Like I literally like I stopped teaching people how to get out of the rat race at that point because I couldn't teach something I wasn't doing. And so I started teaching people how to find money, how to get resourceful, because that's what I was doing. And in that time, people were always asking, I would love to hire you as a coach, but I can't find the money. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm way broker than you are. I wouldn't say that out loud, of course. That's business suicide. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm way broker than you are. I bet you. I mean, I'd love to be in your situation. So I just tell them, if I could find the money, would you pay me? And they said yes. And so I started making a whole business out of just solving the problems that were there, right? And I think that's the one key thing is that dollars follow value create, right? And it's always about how do I go about serving people, solving problems in a way that money is this natural byproduct. And so at that time, people were like, I just don't have cash. And so I started focusing on cash flow. How do we improve your cash flow? Save money on taxes if you're a business owner. How do we, help you pay off debt creatively or find money you didn't even know you had? And pretty soon, like on average, like people were freeing up like $34,000 a year doing that. And so I created revolutionized our whole business doing that kind of strategy. Nothing about passive investing anymore, just freeing up cash. And we went from like almost bankrupt in 2009 to like 5 million in revenue the next year in 2010.
Oh, wow.
And I started using that income, and especially living cheap and living well within my means. I was trying to live on like $4,000 a month. I mean, it was crazy. Maybe 4,500 a month I was living on. I was just like trying to pay off all that debt, dig myself out of that hole, then eventually take that money and invest in more passive investments like what you do, right? The same thing that allows us to, go live wherever we want. And so I started doing that. So then I was able to retire the second time in December of 2016 when I broke over 10,000 a month of passive income.
Oh, wow. No, that's great. So you had $1 million in debt in
Mhm.
2009, and you were able to dig yourself out of that hole within what, just a couple of years, it sounds like.
Well, really, I mean, like, yeah, 2009 to 2016, so I mean, it was like, 7 years. It was definitely not overnight. It was definitely not an overnight success. In fact, I even, left the business I had started back in 2007 and went and launched Money Ripples in 2012, so I even had like a new business I had to start with a non-compete in place. And even went through a divorce in 2015. That didn't help things either. So, I mean, there was
No.
hiccups along the way, obviously, but the fact still remains the same. Is always came back to, all right, how can I serve people, create value to generate that income? Because your business is your economic engine. And then taking those profits, at first I was just using it to pay off debt, and I was using like my cash flow index formula to do that. But then I also like was then taking the extra profits and figuring out, how do I generate passive income with this? How do I get myself to the point where I don't even need to make the money in the business? I can literally just work here because I want to, not because I have to.
Well, I love that. And I love these sorts of stories because most people don't have a linear, just up and to the right kind of
Yeah.
financial story. Most of our financial stories have peaks and valleys, and it looks like the novel of a story where the action goes up
Mhm.
and the action goes down, and yeah. So anyway, I love that. And yeah, I remember 2008 very well. I was working for a hard money lender at the time, and I had a bunch of rental properties. So my day job disappeared overnight because no one was flipping houses
Yeah.
anymore, and all my rental properties were they plummeted in value, and the cash flow was negative, and it was a total mess. So I sympathize with where you
Yeah.
were. So Chris, in 30 seconds or less, how do you help people today, and how can people connect with you if they want to take you up on that help?
Yeah, now we actually do help with passive income along with that cash flow strategies too to free up cash, and that's what we do now. Like we do like one-on-one consulting with people that, have at least a decent amount of money to work with so we can help them do different passive income strategies, help them identify ways to free up cash flow, save on taxes, like I said, pay off debt creatively, whatever it might be, to essentially get their money working harder for them so they have to keep working so hard for it. So we're really like anti-financial advisors. Like we kind of spit in the face of financial advisors. We don't recommend mutual funds and things like that. We're not investment advisors either. We're just really consulting people based on how do we improve your cash flow the best way possible and keep that growing every year.
Well, I love that. Chris, thank you so much for coming on today. And guys, if you enjoy these quick, focused conversations that we have, please rate and review the show. It makes a world of difference to us. And on that note, we'll catch you on the flip side. Want the cash flow appreciation and tax benefits of real estate without becoming a landlord? You've heard of REITs and real estate crowdfunding, but you probably don't know much about 5 other ways to invest passively in real estate. So we put together a free video course for you to show you how to consistently earn 15% plus returns from 5 lesser known hands-off ways to invest in real estate. And even more importantly, we'll keep risk front and center in that whole discussion. Because really, what's the point of investing for high returns if you also take on high risk, right? So visit sparkfunnel.com/free to take our free course. Each video is snackable at 10 to 15 minutes long, and the entire course takes less time than watching a movie. Looking forward to chatting with you from within the course.